Hi, Julie.
Hi, Tryon.
What prompted you to write about TA in the first place? And how did the idea initially came about?
Well, yeah, I'm just remembering that because what actually happened was a big publisher in the UK, McGraw-Hill, put out a message to people about they wanted subject experts to write about their subjects. And I thought, oh, well, we could have an up-to-date TA book. So I offered it, and they said, yes, please. So I wrote it.
And when was that?
1992 or something, I think the first book came out.
Okay.
I'm not good at references, my own or anybody's. I think it was 92.
And how about your articles? Because you've written articles prior to that, right? Or was it after?
I think I'd written articles before that, yeah.
And were they TA related or?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I just wrote them. I mean,
Yeah.
they weren't, in the beginning, they were not academic articles. Most of what I write isn't an academic article as such. I just wrote them. It's a bit like when I wrote the book. I think nobody had told me it was meant to be hard. I had a month with no work to do, no consulting work, so I just typed. And when I got to a bit I wasn't sure about, I typed a row of X's so it would show up on the spell check. And I did that for a month, and then I was busy, and then I went back and had another 2 weeks and filled in the gaps. Sent them what I thought would be a first draft that would come back with lots of comments. Didn't hear anything for ages. And then I asked them what's happening, and they said, oh, it's in production. And I thought, I haven't checked it.
That was quite a surprise.
It was. Plus the piece in the contract that says if you make too many changes, they make you pay for it. So fortunately, when it did come back, I remember there was one piece I asked to leave out. But other than that, it was fine.
Okay.
Because they'd copy edited it as well.
And coming back to your writings in TAJ, how was that process? Because we do have a lot of TA practitioners and TA specialists around the world, but not all write. So...
Yeah, my experiences of writing for the TAJ, fine. I mean, I wrote something. The latest one I did was a bit more mixed. Well, the one I did with Ulrika Weiden about the TA Proficiency Awards, because the first one we sent in got rejected. They said it was more marketing. And I was a bit puzzled because I thought, how can it be marketing when it's a social action and we're volunteers, you know? But I put some more academic things in it, sent it back again,
Okay.
and then it got published.
Okay. And if you're thinking of your writing when you first started and your writing these days, has it changed? Is it different?
Well, I've always written in different styles. So I did an MPhil many years ago, so I did academic writing. When I read it now, I think, who on earth wrote this rubbish, you know, you can't even understand half of it. So then when I started doing the articles and the books, they're more for general people. But because I run an MSc now in developmental TA, I write teaching workbooks. Like each month I cover another topic. And then I do that a bit more academically as well, because I'm role modelling for the students that when they write their CTA or when they write their MSc material, they've got to make it look proper, as it were, with the proper references and so on.
Yeah.
So I'm aware that that style is quite different to what I might put in an article in general journals and so on.
Right.
And then the TAJ would be closer to that, of course, the more academic style.
Yeah, yeah.
And also, because I'm the editor of the TA Research Journal, I'm constantly reading and editing academic research articles as well. And I'm really conscious there that the reputation of TA is on the line. You know, if we don't do it academically properly, we won't get any credibility.
for the research article, do you think the content of the Taj became more academic throughout the years?
Definitely. I wonder, for example, whether they'd ever have printed Vanita English's three-cornered contract if it came in nowadays. It's less than a page. Brilliant idea. But would they have even put it in? We don't have one-page things in TAJ anymore.
Who were your TA mentors, and how did they influence your thinking and growth?
That's always a difficult question for me, because I'm not sure who my mentors were in that sense. Clearly, when I started reading TA, I felt like I had a connection with Eric Byrne, because it changed my life when I read TA. But when I did my first training, my sponsor, Archie Mills, who's dead now, he was learning to be an organisational consultant, and I and another student were learning to be transactional analysts. So it was much more of a, well, you tell us about TA and we'll tell you about organisational consulting. So it wasn't like a mentoring relationship, because he had no experience he didn't have our experience, he had a little bit of experience of working in organisations, because that's how I'd met him. Michael Reddy ran the first one-on-one I went on. It took me ages to get him out of my head as this amazingly guru figure, and obviously I got to know him as a person. So that was a bit strange, but there wasn't really someone I would think of as a mentor. There have been lots of people where I've learned lots from. And now I'm writing these workbooks, I'm going back and rereading early material and realising that, I know that it appears in my work, but I've obviously I absorbed it all at the time. Without realising, without even thinking somebody said that. And then I read it and I think, that's where I got that from, and that's where I got that from. So it's almost like the whole TA community was my mentor.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so not individuals, individuals coming from the community, but could you say that the community as a whole also, in terms of...
Well, it's more that all those trainers, whether they were authors or not, I went on lots of people's trainings as well. And then I knew lots of them, but in a different relationship anyway, because I was a president for a while. So I met lots of people that way. So it's not like there was a mentor as such where I think, that person sort of guided me. Because I used to do a lot of work on mentoring. So I'm really up with the mentor, looked after Telemachus while his daddy went off around the world and brought him up like an uncle. So I think of a mentor as this sort of older, wiser person bringing you up. And I was already quite old by the time I found out about TA, so it doesn't feel like there was a mentoring role. There were just lots of people giving me really good ideas and feedback. I did get lots of feedback, especially when I was a president, whether I wanted it or not. People would come up and say, would you like some feedback about how you behaved in that meeting you just ran? And it was like, well, I better say yes, hadn't I?
You do mention this in one of your articles. You've seen this feedback also as a process of therapy.
Well,
being in the role of president.
Yeah, because it's like you've got a lot of psychotherapists coming and telling you and how they'd analyse what you were doing. So it's like free therapy from a lot of people.
That's an interesting twist.
Yeah, not all of them, of course, but from some of them.
Considering the fact you are very open and direct about yourself in your writing and articles, has this ever been problematic or delicate, especially in the work you do with clients? And were there things that you wished you would have left out?
I never think of myself as being particularly open, but I guess I am. I don't know. No, there aren't things I would wish I'd left out about me. Apart from I know you're going to get to a question about me saying something derogatory about being a therapist, and then I became one. But no, I guess that I've always been fairly transparent and open about what goes on for me. If I'm working, obviously I'm choosing what I self-disclose because I work out first how might this be helpful to the client to know this. But if I'm with colleagues, I wouldn't be really thinking about it that way. It's just that's me, and it's not a secret. So I suppose somewhere along the way, probably even before I learned TA, I know that how somebody behaves isn't them. It's like, you're okay, but your behaviour is something else.
And that was something
so I think I'm
before that you were quite aware of before TA.
Yeah, it's interesting. Probably before, it was more about my life position is I'm okay, you're not. So it would never occur to me that if anybody didn't like what I did, it would matter, because it's like, well, why would their opinion matter? And then when I learned TA, I like to think it became more like I'm okay, you're okay, and let's model that. So there's also something about, I'm very much into normalising for people. So when people think they've got problems, so often they've only got the same problems that lots of other people have got. So if I'm open about what I've done, then it's permission that it's fine, you can do that. It's not anything sort of that you have to be ashamed about or hide.
This question came by reading your article on Julie Hayes, aka Robin Hood.
Yeah.
And in that article you do talk quite a lot about your own self-development and process of growth and so on. And we were seeing this as more of an openness and disclosure to your own development.
And I guess it's because I don't think of it as open, because it's like, well, we all know we've all got scripts and we all do things in script. So then it seems to me that if we know TA, well, we would talk about that. So I don't think of it as being any more open than I would expect anyone else to be. I'm just thinking that you were with me yesterday when I was doing supervision of supervision, and I'm thinking about how part of that feedback was that the person was supervising someone who's very advanced PTSD, and they come with an issue in supervision, and I'm saying to them, well, they're very advanced. How come you don't just say, how does this fit your script? Because I think, well, isn't that what we do? We're busy doing that to other people. Why wouldn't we just talk about it for ourselves?
You're saying, I would be a lousy therapist because I would expect clients to understand the theory and change their behavior as soon as I explained it to them. This is part of your article, Julie Hay, aka Robin Hood, from '93. Do you still agree with what you wrote in that specific paragraph, considering that now you are a therapist?
Actually, I do still agree that that's my style. I would expect, well, I've told you what's going wrong, but I'd add more to it now. I'd go outside TA though, because now with neuroscience, I would be thinking, alright, when did the damage occur? Because till we're about 3, it's all going into our emotional brain, not our neocortex. That doesn't start working yet. So that bit works if the problems are largely after you were 3 years old. So then your neocortex can get some new information and make some new synapses. But if you didn't get a good basis before then, you'll just feel the not okayness. It'll be like, well, I just am. And it's not something you can think about. So to me, that's one of the ways I now think about how we separate psychotherapy TA from what I call developmental TA. So what I'd be thinking about is in terms of the psychotherapy TA, if the problems are in their emotional brain, which of course we then in TA be talking about P1 and P1 plus and P1 minus and so on, then they almost need a sort of surrogate parent figure in the therapist who's there for them and gives them new experiences and is a good enough parent, so they can sort of feel their way out of it. But if it was reasonably okay before they were 3, but then those things happened, then that'll be in their neocortex. So then telling them about TA theory is going to be helpful because their own neocortex can work it out. So that's like first degree impasse, as opposed to a deeper impasse. And that's how I think about developmentally. We're working with, I sometimes talk about it being we're working with the walking wounded. They get up and go to work and they do what they need to do, but they've got some hang-ups, as opposed to the ones who really can't do that because it's too far back in the brain.
If we're thinking of what Byrne used to write about, sharing your thinking as a therapist with your clients, there is actually a limit there because it's almost useless to share.
Yeah, if there's
something that's
if it's so early. Yeah. So then when I trained as a therapist, which was my anti-Alzheimer's technique, because I thought I've got a lovely life, I've retired, I'm working as a hobby, I'll lose it all if I don't do some more learning. So I thought, I know what, I'll go back and do another field of TA and I'll do it all the way through. And then of course, that's where I then started to use other ways of working, not just classical TA. And I actually ended up working for quite a long time. I went as a placement in a couple of prisons and one of them I just stayed there for 2.5 years. In fact, I'd probably still be there 1 day a week, 7 clients, if the prison management hadn't decided to get rid of the whole counselling unit. So they got rid of the person they employed. But there I learned, obviously then, they were much more likely to have problems that happened right from when they were born. So then it became different.